Oh, it's the spookiest time of year, and if there's one thing that brings me into the holiday season is creepypastas. And there's one person I wanted to invite into this video, which is our yearly video with WENDIGOONS.
Hey, yo, what's good, my man? Thank you for having me back. Appreciate it.
Of course. It's been a year. Last year we did in the Halloween time, we did the nice movie recommendations, which I recommend you go watch those if you're looking for some themed movies for your holiday season. But if not, this is a good place to start. The story we're talking about today, it's not confirmed. I don't want to put out there that it's confirmed, but it does. I think people regard this as one of the first internet's creepypasta.
It definitely has the reputation for it.
Which is Ted the Caver. It was a little blog post made, I think, on March 31st, 2001 by an anonymous reader. A little bird told me that the guy that wrote this did it on a prank to his family who would read his blogs about spelunking. Have you ever heard of that before with this story?
I did not know about this theory. Oh my word,
that's
tell
a
me
theory.
more.
Okay. It was like a big practical joke on his family where he didn't talk to them for a while. By a while too, I mean like it was like months. Like horrifying.
This guy's evil.
It is downright evil, and I pray that it's real because it's so incredibly fucked up. This is all hearsay. This is stuff I've read online, but the whole thing was that he moved. He'd been proactively into cave diving, which his family was like, why the fuck would you want to do that? And he had been doing it a lot of his life, and I think that he started uploading this blog on Angel Fire, which I think it was just supposed to freak his family out, but of course it took the internet by storm. I mean, people have talked about this story to death. People do like readings of it on YouTube. You can listen to it on YouTube, but I think the best way to go about consuming Ted the Caver is actually reading it online.
Yeah.
Which I don't even know if Angel Fire is still around, which angelfire.com was like a blog website in the early 2000s.
It's at least recorded because I'm reading it on, or like I reread it on angelfire.com. So you can still access at least that story.
Which the gist of this story, just to, before we get into it too big, today's video is sponsored by Displate. Displate has a wide, unique range of metal posters, letting you showcase your passion in a matter of seconds. Displate's magnetic mounting system eliminates the need for power tools or putting holes in your wall, like a little aggressive teenager, huh? Just unwrap, stick, and admire. Hang up a display in your room or office to spruce up any space. With tons of designs to choose from major properties like Marvel, Star Wars, Harry Potter, Counter-Strike, Magic the Gathering, and Fallout, Displate is sure to have something for everybody. I love Displate because they're durable, they're lightweight, it's nice metal, it's just good quality product. One of the displays we just got is a Nico Bolas Magic the Gathering poster, which if you don't know that's a Dragon Planeswalker. It's kind of a big deal. And here in our little workspace, we're trying to set up one of the spaces to be like a magic shop. And this thing goes beautifully in there. Oh, fits like a glove. But the best thing is if things change, you just pop it off the wall, you take it down, you put it up somewhere else. Displate, it's flexible and easy. And if you want to buy another one, Displate will ship it to your door anywhere in the world within 4 to 5 business days. Oh, mama, that's fast. Dress your walls with Displate. Click the link or use my discount code PAPA to get 32% off your first 2 displays or get 38% off when you buy 3 or more. Thank you so much, Displate, for sponsoring the video, and back to the video. Is that it's a guy talking about his experience with a very odd cave that he's spelunking in, aka cave diving, aka the worst hobby on earth. I don't know why anybody likes spelunking. I'm extremely claustrophobic, so this story touches me to an extreme core, but it's about this man and his buddy named B diving down to a cave and exploring a mysterious hole that they find, and he writes in this blog as if it's his personal journal, just kind of going into great detail of all of the things that they see, the processes they do, and it's extremely effective. And it all begins in December 30th, 2000. So I thought this was crazy because I was like, oh my God, this story is now over 20 years old.
It is, isn't it? Wow. An internet story that's been around for 2 decades.
2 decades that holds enough infamy, but hasn't been manufactured into a bunch of different, because at first I was like, I'm surprised they haven't made a movie of this. But in 2013, they made a movie. I tried watching a little bit of it for this video, and it's really stupid. It's really bad.
Is this that movie, Living Dark?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I didn't watch it, but I saw that in research, yeah.
It's just they change the story too much, it deviates from it, and you lose a lot of the charm of what makes this story actually very creepy. Which, coincidentally, I was thinking, when I was reading this, there's a point in the story where the writer mentions Blair Witch, and I was wondering how much of that movie and the crazy ad campaign that had with the fake website, I wonder if that influenced this story, or like the way that it's approached, or if it was a practical gag, if it was inspired by that.
That's actually a good point, because Blair Witch gets credit for, maybe not the first, but at least the first mainstream ARG of sorts. The way they built the website and like these fake missing persons cases and all that. So that would be interesting in a way if one of the earliest ARGs spawned one of the earliest creepypastas.
Yeah, well, I know people get all up in arms about, that's not the first found footage film, you know, blah, blah, blah. But it was the thing that, like, I think actually put found footage and the idea of lost media into the pop culture realm, or like the cultural zeitgeist, where people are like, oh shit, this is a cool way to consume media, which of course has gone on to inspire tons, if not every piece of like analog horror and a lot of the things that we see on YouTube nowadays with like Backrooms and, you know, all that. I think it all derives from Blair Witch. But for people that don't know, there was a website where it was like talking about these missing people, and I think everybody believed it was real, which is funny because even I don't know if you felt the same, but at the end of the first Paranormal Activity, when I saw it in theaters, I thought to myself, oh my God, this is real. Because at the end, they didn't have the credits. And that was enough for me as a young child to be like, it's real.
That's it. That's it. It's real. It's happening.
Yeah. It's real. I can only imagine what people in 1999 were thinking when they saw this thing. They're probably like shitting their fucking pants.
I remember my mom told me, this is in Kentucky, in eastern Kentucky, that she remembers while that movie's marketing campaign was happening, there were people at church asking that the missing college students from New England be put on the prayer list. It is so real that grandma in the South was like, oh, I hope they find out what happened to those kids up in the woods. Yeah. That's how much it got in people's head. It's insane.
It's amazing. It's so fun, and it leads perfectly into the story, and without further ado, like I said, we'll get into it. This story is written from December 30th, 2000, I think up until April of 2021. The guy made the post, though, on March 31st. It starts off with Ted, and he gives his partner's name is B. People say it's Brad. I don't know if that's true or not, but they're going into a mysterious cave. They refuse to tell you the name of it, because he doesn't want to be responsible for anybody's death or people going to looking into this thing. But he's been basically making everything very anonymous, very discreet, so it's just a story he's telling. But it's all about them going to a cave that they've gone to before and exploring the cave and finding like a fist-sized hole, if I remember right, is when it first starts. It's just a little fist-sized hole.
He can just fit his hand through it, yeah.
But if you shine the light down in the hole in this cave, it does look like there's a little passageway into like maybe something that breaks off. They think it's a virgin passage, and for people who don't spelunk, virgin passage is basically just a place where no one has gone yet.
Like ever, historically. Like you would be the first person to set foot there, which is one of the appeals that people who are into spelunking talk about. The fact that you may step somewhere that humanity has literally never gone. It's like the surface of the moon, but underneath our feet.
Yeah, and I think that, I feel like it's like you're chasing, what is it, like a death-defying thing? Like you're like a rush, you know what I mean? So what's captivating about this story and what's happening too is that like, it makes sense that the guy would want to go back each time something kind of weird happens. He's like, well, what the fuck is actually down there, you know, and actually search for it. So
it's one of those things that I used to resent it a little bit. Like when I was younger, I'd be like, oh, it's so stupid. Why would the main character, you know, want to go to whatever this dangerous thing is? But as I get older, I'm like, no, I get it. If you knew something that outlandish existed, how could you sleep at night not understanding it?
It'd be like a crazy itch. It would just be something that is just pestering at you. So I understand. But to give a little excerpt, this is a little excerpt from when he sees the hole. There's a small passage in the lower portion of the cave that I wanted to check out to see if possible to get past it. It had a small opening, but lots of air blowing out of it. And then he says, we could hear the wind howling from the other side of the passage. It was a low, eerie noise. We could also hear a low rumble from time to time. No big deal, though. The cave is in the vicinity of a highway that was heavy... Ugh.
was in the vicinity of a highway that has heavy trucks drive on it. We figured the rumble was the effect of the trucks resonating through the rocks.
Whenever they go down there, that's the interesting thing, is they start hearing things, but I also like how the story starts to implement like logical thinking versus like some stories they immediately jump into like, what was that? It was something crazy and creepy. It's like, no, they're like pretty rational guys, which is what I also enjoyed about this. But I do think it's funny that whenever they find the hole and they call the passageway Floyd's tomb after Floyd Collins, which was just bad luck on my part. I mean, I would not call something like that Floyd's tomb, which for people who don't know, Floyd Collins was a guy in like the early 1900s who got stuck in a fucking cave and died. So it's like...
And I played him in the Internet Historian video, and I had forgot that they named this cave Floyd's tomb, so I was like, oh no.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were gonna get a kick out of that too, because yeah, I was thinking about the Internet Historian video and your face in that video. It's so funny.
Something else to mention about this hole they found too is to get to the hole, it requires at least a half hour to an hour of cave diving to get there. There's like ropes you have to rappel down, there's these rock walls you have to climb, you have to crawl on your belly at certain parts. Like it takes an hour of caving to get to this hole. So if something goes wrong, it's not just like you walk out and you're done. You're still trapped down there.
Run away.
Yeah.
You can't do the classic Scooby-Doo gang run. You know what I mean? They run in place and run away. It's just something where it's like, well, if you're down there, you're fucked. I mean, like, there's no getting away from anything. Like, it's a trap, basically. It's interesting, too, because they also say that the entryway used to be really pretty when it was probably first discovered, like, 2 decades ago, which, if this came out in 2000, you have to assume that maybe this cave was uncovered in, like, the 80s. But now it's, like, covered in graffiti. There's, like, beer cans down there from people who kind of go near the entryway, but they have, like, actively crawled and gone deeper into the cave where no one has been, and it just sets up something almost like who knows what's behind this wall. Now their whole objective with this first entry here, they're so curious about this passage in Floyd's tomb that they're going to try and enlarge the hole to where they can crawl into it, which of course is like much more difficult than, you know, you can't just like take a hammer to it. It takes tons of tools and time, which is pretty much what starts to happen over the next couple passages here.
It's so fascinating. Like, I'm horrified of caves. I'm horrified of any tight spaces. I remember I went on a field trip when I was in high school where we went to the Lost Caves in like eastern Tennessee, and they had these areas that were only like, you know, 8-9 feet long that you could like dive in. Like you could put your hands in front of your head and like crawl through them or whatever. And even then, I remember doing that. You don't think about it until you're in the situation, but more than likely every surface or every like thing that you've been around, there has been some level of give to it. Like even if you're under a rock and you start to move, the ground beneath you will probably move, or it'll be a little bit soft, right? But in the rocks of a cave, it's like you feel something touching your chest and back at the same time. And there is an immediate chill that goes down your spine of absolute unforgiving. That's what all the rocks feel like. I'm so terrified of that, and I think of that all the time. But the way Ted, in the beginning of the story, describes how incredible it would be to step foot, like you said, a virgin pathway, on a surface that man's never touched before, I was like, well, you know what? Maybe I would in this circumstance. Yeah. Like, he does a great job at conveying that.
Yeah, he paints like a very beautiful thing, which that's the thing, too, is like the first passage here on the December 30th passage is him saying, like, you know, they're very excited about the remarkableness of this cave and the prospect of exploring a new kind of exciting path, and they definitely plan on returning. Like, you could tell how excited they are at the beginning, and it kind of just, the first passage just concludes with them talking about basically them leaving the cave and them just being like, cool, let's do this. But the next entry isn't until January 27th to 28th of 2001, so almost like a whole month passes before they return, and that's whenever he returns with B, and they start descending back down, except this time they bring a DeWalt cordless drill, masonry bits, sledgehammers, bullpens, and other tools, facing the challenge to actually make some kind of entryway into this hole, because like we said, it's only a fist big, so they're having to pound into earth and take shifts doing so, often yielding only small pieces like the size of your fingernail. This is an excerpt from the story.
To begin work, we had to get down our hands and knees and do our best to avoid smacking our heads on the ceiling. Working in this awkward position, we would drill into the wall around the hole. That was the difficult work. We really had to push on the drill, and it was still a slow progress. Then we inserted the bullpen into the hole and hammered on until the rock broke up. Then we would repeat the process. To give you an idea of how slow it went, the typical size of the rock that would break off was about a fingernail size. If we broke off a large piece, about a quarter of the scale of the palm, it would cause for celebration.
Which, you know, if I'm being honest, too much work. I would immediately give up. I'd be like, okay, and I'm done.
The first piece falls and you're like, oh, this is going to be longer than like a 15-minute, half-hour thing.
Yeah. Or even like, just like a couple hour thing. If the first piece that came off and I was bringing industrial like tools, like a DeWalt drill and shit, and it was just a fingernail, I'd be like, okay, don't think so.
They mentioned at one point, they're like, oh, maybe we could pull a generator up to the mouth of the cave and run a jackhammer down here. Could you imagine carrying like an 80-pound jackhammer?
Yeah,
like
crawling with it
through a cave? Yeah, absolutely not. Not worth it.
No, there's no way. And that's what I was gonna say too. Is like, I say that I would give up, but if my fat ass had to like actually crawl down a cave for 45 minutes to even get to the hole, I'd probably be like, well, fuck it, I'm already here. You know what I mean?
What am I gonna do? Crawl back up? Like, yeah.
After hours of labor, they identified battery life as a limiting factor. The 2 batteries they brought drained quickly, ending their first session. Which, you know, that's whenever they kind of pondered the idea of maybe the jackhammer, but they were just like, what? Who the fuck are we kidding? But then they did begin to notice a weird howling and rumbling noise, unexplained by outside factors. B planned to consult veteran cavers for insights, and I just wanted to do this little deal because I love this little excerpt. It says,
Then we noticed the howling again. It seemed to be a little louder than the last time we were there. We just figured the wind was blowing a little stronger outside. What we could not figure out was the rumbling. It too seemed to be louder and more frequent. This time, we could not attribute the noise to trucks. The road that the trucks drove on was not very busy to begin with. At that time of night, it should be dead, yet the rumbling continued. It seemed to be coming from deep within the passage.
I love the little, like, it's just little crumbs of things. And it's nothing too crazy, but it's enough to be almost believable while you're reading it. It's almost like you picture the rumbling in your head, like what that sounds like in a cave.
Yeah.
Which also, to be fair, I would be like, you guys are probably, your eardrums are probably fucking pulsating inside your head because you've like been jamming. You've been in a small cave hammering, drilling with a DeWalt drill bit. It could be that, but to have that question feels very, very creepy. They get exhausted after all of these interactions in the cave, or like after working, they get exhausted, and instead of driving home, they just kind of stay in a motel and they kind of just talk about how they're going to approach things. And they do this from time to time, not going home. They just kind of charge their batteries and then come back the next day. But the subsequent day mirrored basically what they did the first day, a bunch of intense work and kind of just some mysterious cave noises, but nothing too crazy. And that's where the second journal entry closes. It's them kind of just being like, it's weird, but we're going to keep going. Still not shaken.
At that point in the story, it's subtle enough, the fear, that it's kind of justifiable to ignore it, right? Like, you know, caves make weird noises. Maybe they mentioned later, maybe there's a waterfall somewhere. Maybe it's the road. It's creepy, of course, but it's just enough on the edge of, like, understandable that you could see why they justify it. I can't say that about their later decisions, but right now.
Yeah, like, the excitement is still in the air enough to where, which I'm pretty sure B at first is more like, hey, did you hear that?
Yeah.
And the guy, and Ted is more just like, dude, it's nothing. Just keep going. And he's just excited to see what's happening.
What are we gonna do? Not break into a cave?
Are we not gonna sit here for 70 consecutive hours chipping away, getting nail-sized bits of rock off of here? Come on, dude.
And you're gonna let a little earthquake scare you. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you're gonna let rocks caving in on your body, never to be found, scare you. Cool.
I guess history won't remember you then, loser.
Yeah, whatever, dude. Floyd's Doom Part 2 belongs to me, I guess. But in Journal 3, he kind of goes into some cave lingo. He starts by saying, I noticed that I was writing in a vernacular that's probably known to me, and he kind of just really goes into depth about what caving is and kind of some of the things he was doing in terms of like his crawling positions and stuff. He kind of just gives a more in-depth breakthrough of what spelunkers have to do while caving, how weird the walls are, how tricky it is just to get to the hole when crawling through. And he really paints a picture that like, okay, well, this isn't like as casual as they were kind of leading up before. And what I love about that too is I was reading it and I was just like, dude, this sucks. This sounds terrible. Before he makes it sound like he's just like, oh, I'm just gonna hop in and we approached the hole. I wanted to check this out. But this time now he's like, there's like weird vertical walls. I have to shimmy on my belly here. I was kind of nervous to even go through this hole, but I did it anyways. You know, there's water in some areas, which also just scares me. Imagine, I know there's that one TikTok video of the guy who's like in a cave and it's half of his face is in water and he's like, oh, I think the cave's flooding.
Oh my gosh,
have you seen that
video? Yes.
God, fuck that, dude.
And he makes some comment like,
oh my god, I think I'm stuck.
Oh my gosh.
It's the worst.
Bro.
I hate it so much, dude.
Imagine dying that way where you have hours to think about it, you know?
Oh, man.
Whew.
I feel like you'd probably go insane, right? You would probably clinically have to be like going through the stages of grief in your head for your own death.
Yeah.
And I think that I would hope I would just go insane and just like, I don't know, drown myself or something.
It'd be so much better to like become non-lucid, right? To lose your mind,
definitely.
suffocate.
Yeah.
I think I'd just put my face down in the water. Be like, maybe I can drown
That's what
this
I'm
out.
saying.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck it, dude. I'll just go to sleep and just stay here. Fuck it.
There was one video I saw of a dude caving. He wasn't in water, but he was in a similar condition. And, oh man, I don't know what kind of spiders they are, but there's like a bunch of cave spiders down there with him. And he runs into a nest, and they just start running all over him. Like he gets swarmed in them.
Ugh, they're all over. They're raining down on me now.
Like, bro.
I can't remember if it's that. I think that's the guy who it's him and his son do spelunking, and it's him like very casual about it. But I don't know. But I have so little sympathy too, because I'm just like, why are you down there? Why are you down there?
It's all self-inflicted. If someone was kidnapped and thrown in a cave, I'd feel horrible.
While I was reading this too, because they do say that obviously from the passage in the hole, they can feel a breeze coming out of like the hole that they're trying to chip away at. But I was wondering, I'm like, I wonder how much oxygen really is down there, because that's like a thing too that cavers fear about, is that if the farther you go down, the tighter the space. If you're there and you're pinned and you like are sucking up all the oxygen and just breathing out all that fucking, what the fuck do you breathe out? God.
Carbon dioxide.
Yeah, dioxide, whatever. People can just, you can just suffocate just by simply being there. Just like, I was breathing here, but I breathed out all the air.
Just by existing.
Even just by being stuck, you could just like, oh, I'm out of air.
There's a video, but are you familiar with Jacob Geller?
Yeah.
Have you seen his Fear of the Depths video?
Yes, I have.
Oh my gosh, bro. When he's describing caves as a living organism, that you're effectively in the digestive tract of like a dragon.
Yeah.
And you just have to try to not die. Ugh.
Makes me think of the movie we talked about last year, Borderlands.
I was thinking of Borderlands. Yeah.
Exactly. But it's such a cool theory and thought. They finally make some progress to where they're opening it up a bit more. Ted is still very optimistic, and he's kind of like looking at the hole like he's just like, I can fit in there. Fuck it.
I remember that I frequently looked at the hole and thought, hey, it's big enough. I think I can squeeze through, only to be disappointed in my attempt. However, even after the first attempt and failure, I knew that I would keep working on the hole until I got through. This despite the fact that I knew it would take many more hours of hard work. It actually became an obsession with me. I tried to get out of the cave and work as often as I could. I hoped that the passage led to a larger, undiscovered cave and that we would be the first ones to enter. I guess the explorer in me wanted to find a new frontier there in the cave. Since B is such an avid caver, he was motivated by the same desire to find a new, unexplored cave. What we did find was not all that was expected.
Which is a fun way to end the journal. I love that ending to the journal entry. It's kind of weird because, yeah, he's like scratching at it's like a dog scratching at the door to like get out or get in, whatever. He's like making a little progress and he's like trying to squeeze in but can't actually do it. And they keep coming back quite frequently to actually work on the cave. I bring this up because after a while, they will not be as excited to return to the cave. But now they are still, coming back to the cave. They're still pushed by the potential discovery of being in some place that no one's ever been before. And they've even discussed some of the theories of what the rumbling is, and they're talking about maybe it's just some water, like a river or like some kind of weird underground river that they just haven't seen yet, and they're kind of like sidestepping being scared. They're a little spooked, but they're like, hey, it's probably water. This is where we start getting some fun scares, which is in the journal 4 entry where they go at night, and this time B brings his dog Whip. Terrible name for a dog. If I'm being honest, just me being a
that's the problem with it. That's the problem with it. The dog's
that's the
name.
problem.
Not bringing the dog down into the cave, just what they did.
Yeah, no. Him bringing his dog down into the weird rumbling cave isn't a big deal. It's the name. How dare you?
Of course.
I didn't mind bringing Whip along because we plan on putting her into a small hole to see how far in the passage she would go.
That's kind of animal torture.
That might give us an idea what is on the other side.
They were going to bring this small dog and be like, get in there, Whip, see what's back there.
Go, Whip, you can do it.
God forbid, I'm like, God, I hope the dog comes back. Holy shit.
I did think that part was kind of brutal because it's like,
I did too.
sure, the dog, like maybe it runs around caves with them, but you don't know what's back there. It could be like a drop off or something. You don't know where you're sending the dog.
This time though, they made it down much quicker because they didn't bring all these tools. They just brought the dog. So this time they were able to get to the hole much quicker and easier, and they were feeling pretty comfortable. But as they were crawling down, the dog Whip became increasingly more anxious as they got deeper inside and near the work site. The dog kind of got a little sketchy, and these are just some excerpts from Whip's adventure, as it were.
The dog began exploring as soon as we let her off the rope. She was in hog heaven, sniffing and darting around our feet. She would run from one person to the other as we made our way back to the work site. At the point the cave splits into 4 passages, the dog seemed to run out of juice. She just stuck right by either B or me. That seemed kind of odd. As we progressed further into the cave, she would stay by B. She seemed edgy, like she saw something she didn't like. As we approached the short drop-off before the hole, she stopped and would only come further after we coaxed her. The hair on her back stood on end. Finally, as we got within 20 feet of the hole, she began to whimper and hide behind B. Her tail was between her legs, and she was cowering down on the ground. Strange. I've seen her square off with dogs twice her size, but now she's acted as if Satan himself was lurking in the darkness. I figured there must have been animals that used the cave as a home, and Whip smelled their scent. Too bad it upset her, because there was no way she was going into that passage.
Which thankfully, when I first was hearing the story, I was like, God, please do not force the dog into the small hole. The dog's like, please, God, get me out of here.
It's crying
like,
and yelping,
right,
and they're like, go ahead, Whip. Just
get on in there, Whip.
load her in. To their credit, they don't put the dog in there when they see it's
They do not put the dog in. We want to make that very clear. They did not put the dog in. But when they were working, this is what the dog was doing.
The entire time we worked, Whip did not move. She just laid there on a rope bag, shivering. She would whimper from time to time. One thing I didn't think about at the time was that she would not take her eyes off the hole. We should have made more of an observation of the intuition of an animal.
If a small dog was whimpering, shivering, I probably wouldn't just stay down there and open the hole. I probably would just be like, this is a bad idea. But you know what? They're down there. What are they supposed to do?
It looks at the hole you're working on and starts crying. And they're like, wimp. What a loser.
Yeah, exactly. God, Whip, you pussy. Jesus.
Amateur hour down here.
Yeah, good Lord.
This hole that periodically makes grinding and moaning noises? What's your problem?
I think about my dog. Like, there's been times where I'm like laying in my bed and I like look up, my dog's just like staring there, like looking at a wall. I'm like, what are you looking at? Stop! Or it'll just be like, he's just like looking at a door. And I'm like, is someone breaking into my house? Like, I get very afraid. I would immediately look at that and be like, this is like a haunted cave. We gotta get out of here. Yeah. Haunted cave. Haunted hole. But there's also another weird, strange occurrence, which is while they're chipping away at the hole, the progress is slow. B hears unexplainable grinding noises, and they both notice that the wind is stopping coming through the tunnel.
B was working. He had just finished drilling a hole and was getting ready to hammer the bullpen when he stopped working and looked into the hole. He had a light by his side to illuminate the work area. I could see the eerie glow, a puzzled and intense look on his face. He looked over at me and shook his head. I asked him what was up. He said he swore he just heard a strange noise emanating from the hole. He said it sounded like rock sliding on rock, sort of a grinding sound. I assumed his ears were just ringing from the drill. He didn't wear any earplugs this trip. He assured me he had heard what he had said he heard. I didn't have an explanation, so I went back to dozing. B sat in quiet of the cave for a long time before he resumed work. He would stop from time to time just to listen. B is very grounded and not one to pursue some imaginary sound.
Starting to get into some more of the creepy territory. One of the guys is starting to hear some shit, but still it's kind of like, dude, B, you're acting crazy, bro. And he just goes back napping. I thought that was kind of funny. God, it's not that big of a deal, B. Jesus. Just immediately starts snoring.
We're in a cave throwing rocks and you heard a rock make a noise. Wow.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Wow, dude. You gotta get your head checked on, dude. You and Whip are fucking up today.
Maybe Ted's just a jerk. Maybe that's...
Yeah. He is a jerk.
As I was kneeling there contemplating how close we were, I noticed something that B overlooked. The wind had stopped. At all of the times I'd ever been in the cave, I've always felt the wind blowing. The last time we were out working on the cave, the wind was blowing worse than ever. Even earlier, we remember the breeze cooling us off, but now, nothing. B said he did not know when it stopped. The rumbling had ceased too. Bizarre.
Which is just like, weird. The breeze has stopped. We're sweating up a storm down here. That's kind of weird, huh?
Hey man, you know how every cave we've ever been in has wind and it's never quit ever? Probably nothing to worry about.
It's almost as if there's a box fan plugged in on the other side blowing constant air on us. Yeah, that stopped, B. Did you see that, man?
Right after I heard the rock noises.
When did this happen? He's like, I don't really know. I just was just working. He's like, B, you got to be a little more intuitive than that.
Oh, good. Slacking on the job. I see. Huh?
It's slacking on the job. Anytime in these passages, I love when they show the pictures, which definitely whoever wrote this, there is an argument to be made that they probably were a caver, and I think that they took these photos themselves of like maybe some random cave they were exploring.
I'm pretty sure, if I recall correctly, they found the real Ted, and he is in fact a spelunker.
Right now, my hobby is disc golf. Before that, it was mountain biking. Before that, it was caving.
It was something about like he saw this hole.
My buddy Brad and I, who is B in the story, had planned a trip out to this cave we had been to many times to explore this hole.
On one of their excursions or something like that, and be like, hey, it'd be real messed up if something scary was behind that. And then that's what like started the story. So yeah, these are real pictures.
So when I got done, I thought I ought to take my caving journal, which I'd been keeping in journal the whole time, and just publish it online. And then I just had the thought, why don't I embellish it a little bit, make it interesting?
That is not the time to joke. You know, it'd be really fucked up as if there was like a weird gremlin, like goblin down here. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, did you see that super long-horned demon at the end of the hallway there? He was laughing. Oh, you didn't? I'm just messing with you, man. Let's keep going. It's like, what? Fuck you, Ted. Like, look at these photos, too. I was like, God, how has there not been just a found footage film of this? Like, point of view, just him, like, pushing through. Oh, God. It would be so fucking awesome to see this turned into a movie, man. But that was the end of Journal 4, and then Journal 5, which is interesting, is they don't go back till March 3rd. So by this point, I mean, it's been 3 months that they've been at this hole, like chipping away at it and doing stuff, but they don't actually officially do a return until March 3rd, which now, this time, the team's attitude shifted from, oh, this is an adventure, to, due to kind of some of the previous stuff before, now they're a bit more spooked, I think. But once again, the thrill, it's very like almost Lovecraftian of like, it's so unknown that it's kind of driving them insane, and they feel so compelled to go back. Their conversations this time are a lot more subdued. They're not as jokey, focusing on rational explanations for all the things that are going on. They don't really discuss the cave with anybody else. That's one thing that they made a note of saying, is he's like, people ask about the cave, but we never talk about it. So it's just like a conversation between them, which, you know, lighten up, Ted. Come on, man. You can't, how would you not go into a cave and be like, it was weird as there was like these rumbling sounds. B was being a pussy and so was his dog, but I started noticing that there was no breeze down there. So we were like, what the hell? You know, we're sweating down there like pigs. And like I said, that's when I saw the rock goblin. I didn't tell B because I didn't want him freaking out too much.
When they're on the drive back, he's like, yeah, so you see that thing?
Yeah, you saw that rock goblin, right? He was like 8 feet tall. He was on his belly. Did you not see him? Oh, dude, it was crazy. That's kind of funny to paint Ted as like this like totally oblivious like bro who's just like down there spelunking. Oh, you didn't see it? Oh, dude, it was sick.
Maybe we'll figure out what's making the noises, all that. Ted's like, oh, bro, that guy? Yeah, what's up? What, you missed him? Oh, man, that sucks. Yeah, he was cool. Yeah, he looked chill.
Dude, he had orange eyes and no teeth. You didn't see that?
He had orange eyes and no teeth. Bro, you would have loved it, man.
Oh, man, you would have loved that, dude. He was funny looking. It's like, Jesus, what? So like I said, this time they go back in March. They start in the afternoon to avoid traffic, which last time they went at night. I don't think they ever go back during the day now, if I remember right. They all just kind of like always go back towards afternoon and night.
They do on the very last trip, but the rest I think are at night.
That's right.
Yeah.
They had kind of a solemn mood this time. The rock goblin joke didn't land. B's a bit more, he's a little more high strung this time. The descent was efficient, but B sustained a minor injury. I forgot, how did he slip here?
When the story starts, it says that B had injured himself like a year ago, and he was still recuperating. So it's some previous injury that he's getting better from.
That's right. So he can't do as much as Ted, which Ted kind of knows that. And I think he always kind of keeps that in mind. He's like, I know he can't do that because he's kind of injured. Also, I think B's a bit bigger than Ted. So I don't even think that, I think they both know too that like only Ted's going in this hole.
Right.
Like B can't fit.
They even mentioned later on that they need a skinnier person if anyone's going to go. So
yeah, exactly. This time they both noted though the return of the mysterious breeze and the rumbling sound. So those are back. Thank God. So Ted says,
I was kneeling down and working the drill slowly into the wall at the time. I had my earplugs in, my safety glasses on, and I was lost in my own thoughts. Suddenly, over the squeal of the drill wearing down the rock, I heard a strange noise. It was loud. It would frequently complain about screeching and whining as we forced it into the wall, but this was different. It took me several full seconds to comprehend that this was coming from inside the hole, and not the bed.
so now even I think Ted's getting a little scared.
Every horror story has a turnaround point for me, right? Like, this is the part where I lose my sympathy. And, like, I get the power of exploration. I get wanting to go caving. I get even justifying the rolling rock and stuff. Hearing a sustained 5-second scream that he later describes as a combination of a cougar and a dying man, I have no sympathy. If you're not immediately hightailing it out of there, don't care.
Dude, B, I don't think that was the drill bit. He's like, yeah, no shit, Ted. He's like, yo, what the hell? That thing was like 5 seconds long.
Did you ever think this drill sounds just like a guy screaming? That's crazy.
Yo, B, do you think that sounds like some kind of dying old woman in the hole there?
Bro, is that your dog, man?
Yeah. Dude, was that his bark? No, Ted. My tiny dog's bark isn't the sound of an old woman screaming. Oh, okay, cool. Just making sure.
No, Ted, my Jack Russell doesn't sound like a outline. Okay, cool, just checking. Just goes back to drilling. Like,
Yo, when did your dog lose his teeth and have orange eyes? Yo, is your dog the same height as Xerxes from 300? It's like, what? No. Oh, okay, cool, yeah, because that's what I thought I saw in the tomb.
you should take him to a vet or something, dog. That's weird.
Yo, is your dog high on ketamine? Do you give your dog ketamine? No? Okay.
Should I have not done that earlier? Oh, that's my bad. That's my dog.
Oh, shit.
It won't happen
me and your
again.
dog are tweaking right now, dude. Me and your dog are on a different planet, B. Just like rips a fat vape, too.
Yeah.
Ted is definitely kind of guy, too, to be vaping in there and just like filling the entire cave with smoke.
Can't see anything. It's just like a smoke show.
It's dark in here, B. Who gives a shit? I don't know why you're freaking out, dude.
Ted's just like a frat bro who got lost in a cave.
How he got through there, it's actually pretty remarkable. Where the fuck am I? No, yeah, they measured it, and it was approximately 7 inches high and 20 to 24 inches wide. So incredibly small. During work, a loud, unidentifiable scream emanating through the passage startled both, halting the progress, which is kind of what we're talking about.
Startled both. Really? I never would have guessed.
This is what Ted had to say.
I stopped drilling and
Yanked my earplugs out just in time to hear the
most terrible scream I've ever heard trail off the echo in the darkness of the cavern. I stared wide-eyed at the hole for several moments. I didn't move, nor did I breathe. To describe it, I would say it sounded like a cross between a man screaming in fear and a cougar screaming in pain. It sounded like it came from the hole and was roughly 100 feet away. The horrific noise reverberated through the cave and through my ears.
Roughly 100 feet away is so close. That is so
That
hauntingly
could
close.
run at you. Yeah, it'll close the distance.
Also, how the fuck? It sounds like a man screaming in fear and a cougar screaming in pain. Ted has seen some things. Ted has been around some crazy shit before in his life for sure. And I really like this. Ted's like, dude, I think there's like a fucking cougar down here or something. And in response, they just put some rocks in front of it because they think an animal's there. And then they just started working again. I thought that was kind of funny. He's like, dude, plug it up real quick. And he's like, do you think that was a cougar? And B's like, we're gonna die down here. He's like, all right, dude, let's get back to work. It's like, what? That night they exited and they basically, they were like, oh, thank God we're out of there. Ted was like, you want to come back tomorrow? And B's like, I guess. So they stayed at a motel and they came back the next day, which is the end of Journal 5 and beginning of Journal 6.
I cautiously approached the entrance to Floyd's tomb. I decided the best way to enter the small hole was to place one arm over my head, turn my head sideways, and slowly work my way in. I soon determined that this was not going to work. The hole was too small. If I was going to make it without widening the hole anymore, I was going to have to put both arms in over my head in a diving position, turn my head sideways, and slip into the tomb. The width of the entrance was the limiting factor. The height was sufficient. The arms overhead position flared my shoulder blades out, but there was still room to get in. Plus, the arms overhead gave me the best squeeze side to side.
Just picturing that, going into a hole, first off, the cougar, the dying man, regardless of that, going into a 7-inch tall hole, and it's 25 feet wide, roughly. Dude, fuck that? It's not like he's crawling with his arms. He's like inching forward with his fingertips and his like toes. He's just kind of like pushing himself.
It's almost as if he's like paddling his way in, because he's just using his toes to move, because he can't move anything else. Like, bro, and this is after you heard a scream. Even if you can reasonably assume it to be a mountain lion or something, why on God's earth would you go after a trapped mountain lion?
He's navigating with his flashlight. He was kind of telling B what he was seeing, but mostly it was him like clearing rocks, pushing towards what people call a squeeze, which is like another cave return where the passage gets at its smallest or at its tightest. So Ted is like trying to work his way up to the first squeeze, which they tried to do safety precautions by putting like webbing and like tied to his feet to where I think B could like pull him out if he needs to, but I don't know if that would really work, if I'm being honest. And he just endured a lot of challenges. I mean, like going into this tunnel, it'd be a lot of like pain and fatigue. Just like his neck would probably lock up from being in that position. But think about like all of like the sharp rocks that your chest is going over, your legs, arms. Here's a couple more excerpts from Ted here. He says,
I got my arms through the entrance with minor scrapes. Next came my head. By keeping it turned sideways, I was able to get in, for the most part, up to my shoulders. When I got to my shoulders, I could feel the rocks touching all around my shoulders and chest. It was not stopping me, but I was definitely scraping many surfaces of my body. I decided to just push through, keeping in mind that I was going to have to come back out eventually. The pain was not too bad, and I was in. Well, my upper body was in. At least I could get a good idea of what the tomb was going to be like.
His vision and movement were significantly limited. I mean, he's just like sideways. His head is locked down to the side. So he's just kind of like pushing until a point where maybe he can stand up and look around. And he says,
after I had twisted my hips into the passage, I took a few minutes to stop and work out a game plan. Most of the length of my legs were still outside the entrance. They were just dangling in the air. The tomb was still big enough to move my head around and even move my arms freely into the position. It was just larger than the rest of the passage, but not by much. It was like sticking your head into a box. Everywhere I looked, there were rocks, and not too far from my head. Any sound I made was muffled and dead. The narrowest part of the passage was about 10 feet in. At this point, I was about 3.5 feet in. At about the 4-foot mark, I would have to commit to whatever position I felt comfortable, and stay that way until the 12-foot mark, at that time which the cave started to open back up. While lying in the darkness in a passage deep within a cave, one is in a unique position to ponder. A mountain literally resting on top of me, the entire earth lying below. One tiny movement of the earth and I would cease to exist, or worse, to recognize the fear shared by Floyd Collins as he lay there trapped for days deep within the heart of Mother Earth, incapable of freeing himself from the earthen prison.
what a nice thought, Ted. That's a good thing to think while you're sitting there.
And he keeps going. This isn't like, oh man, I gotta get out. This is like, I'd be weird if I died right now. Anyway.
Yeah, he's just kind of like, well, fuck, I mean, that's just the way it is, I guess. While he's crawling through, he realized heightened vulnerability at 7.5 foot mark as the squeeze intensified. Despite constraints, continued to push forward by fully exhaling to collapse chest for extra space.
When I reached the point where my back was rubbing, and I could feel with my head the passage was not getting bigger, I knew I was most likely not going to get through. Still, I decided to give it one more push. If I had been in the position a year ago, I would have been in a state of panic, but not today. I was pretty pumped. I took a few minutes to rest, then I went for it. I exhaled completely all of the air from my lungs. This caused my chest to collapse enough to scoot forward a few inches. Because it takes so much effort to scoot, I only went a few inches before I had to stop and breathe. As I inhaled, the chest pressed hard against the floor and my back against the top. It took a little longer to get my breath back. Unbelievably, I did it again. Exhale, scoot, rest. Again, only a few inches. Repeat. I took a few minutes to enjoy this position, pinned in this small passage.
What a fucking psycho. Wow, I could not believe how relaxed I was.
I tried one more time to exhale and scoot. My back was rubbing too much to continue. Despite the failed effort, I was psyched. I took several long minutes to lay there and recover from the effort. B had been encouraging me the entire time. It was fun to hear him cheer as he saw my shoes go deeper and deeper into the hole.
Which they have a picture of this, and it's
agony.
It horrifies me.
Absolute agony.
I hate it's something where I'm just like, why God? Why does this have to be an idea in humans' heads? Basically, after this, they were like, dude, we're in. And they kind of like forget about the other stuff. Like they're so stoked to just be in there and not have anything weird happen that now they're just like, dude, that was like the tightest place I've ever been, blah, blah, blah. And they're able to seize any kind of like weird thoughts that they might have had before.
There's one portion where Ted prefaces and he's like, I understand this may sound insane to some, but we saw this as the culmination of weeks and months in our our entire careers as cavers to eventually lead to this moment. So he does paint a picture for what this meant to them outside of just a passage in a cave.
I mean, it's like a fucking odyssey at this point. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, I mean, even the next journal entry is April 7th in 2001. And I mean, one of the first things he says in this passage is,
I took an oath. I made a vow. I would not leave the cave until I had made it through the passage. Conquered Floyd's tomb. This would be the trip.
he's like so determined, it's unbelievable. But this is also, as he pushes through, he's able to get through this tight space finally. And that's when he takes the camera with him and takes some pictures. And he also sees fucking hieroglyphics on the wall. And it's like very similar to the Blair Witch symbol, which is also, once again, another reason why I'm like, I wonder if that was inspired.
Yeah,
it looks like one of those
probably.
like little, like the stick people in the trees, whatever. Kind of has that similar vibe.
The symbol itself is interesting because I haven't done a ton of research into what the symbol could be before. What little I did, it doesn't correlate to anything, but it does kind of depict an image of like something above. If you kind of view this as a vertical plane, you have maybe land above, cave underneath, but then something under the cave. Some kind of hidden passage down there. Or perhaps it's some kind of idol, because he mentions that beneath that hieroglyph, there's little depictions of people. So maybe it's like a worship, or maybe it's saying there's some quote unquote people underneath everything. There's a lot of different ways it can go, but it's so subtle in just the presentation of what it is. It's fascinating.
It does the perfect thing, at least that I love, is that it lets the reader just completely like explode with possibilities. And also, like, in a way, it formulates what people would be afraid of or most intrigued by the most. And I think that that's a really powerful tool. But also, once again, like you said, it's so simple. You can kind of take it however.
Yeah.
But Ted's all excited by going in there because he's like, oh, well, shit, if there's hieroglyphics here, there's probably a different entrance in, since this is obviously like a sealed wall that's a hole. So maybe
Yeah,
there's a
no
different
one
entrance.
came the way we just came, so that means
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So there's got to be something else. He hears like rocks moving deeper in the cave, freaks him out bad. They really capture the feeling, like, you know how when you're home alone, you do that thing where like you start going upstairs and you think someone's like running behind
Yeah,
you, so
yeah.
you run up your stairs. I feel like they capture that really well in the story here. Strangely, the photographs he took in the chamber, they didn't develop, erasing the evidence of the hieroglyphics and the round rock, prompting the explorer to sketch the symbol. So that's like the thing that we see here is what he drew, his interpretation of what it was.
The round rock too is like
Yeah.
particularly interesting because like round isn't a shape that naturally occurs in you know
Yeah.
nature. Like if a rock falls off of something, it's going to be jagged, it's going to be broken. But a smooth rock implies it's been moved around a lot, which is harrowing because no one's been back there in at least the past 1,000 years.
And especially because there's no water. Like, that's another thing, too,
Yeah,
is like if
yeah.
there's a stream, usually it's chipped away until it's smoothed out, but there's nothing. So, yeah, it does seem like somebody's been rolling it around or it's been moving on its own. It's very creepy. Ted, like the good guy he is after hearing all these sounds and seeing these things, doesn't tell B. He's like, nah, man, it was cool. Nothing happened. He keeps all the unsettling stuff away from B. I think he knows that B is definitely a little more intimidated by all of the crazy shit going on. Which that ends the journal entry until the next time they go back, which is April 14th, 2001. And he says,
Only a couple days elapsed before B found someone who wanted to explore the passage with us. B told me he talked to a few other people who couldn't make it because of scheduling conflicts.
but we get to meet our new man, Joe. He's an experienced, thin, twinky little man who was eager, but perhaps the most excited among them, impressing with his ease in navigating the tight spaces. So Joe is definitely a smaller guy. And I know Ted was stoked because he's like, well, he's smaller than me, so he can definitely get in the passage with me. He's going in, and Joe is definitely an experienced caver as well. So they're all really excited to go back in with this new guy to show him what's up, and also kind of told him, hey, don't tell anybody about this spot. Joe entered Floyd's tomb. The explorer realized they hadn't informed him of the cave's odd phenomenon, questioning what and how much they should have disclosed, which I love that part. They're just kind of like a blood-curdling scream, rocks move around. I got scared and basically left as quick as I could, but we didn't really know how much we should tell Joe. I mean, come on. Joe was sent ahead alone, his enthusiasm akin to a child's. Joe was as giddy as a little girl, and this is what they had to say about that.
When I reached the tight spot of the squeeze, I had Joe snap a picture of me. I thought it would make a good photo.
Which is just, the photo's so haunting. I hate it.
Once I got through, B started to relay my stuff to me. Then disaster struck. I had gone all the way in and turned around to pull my gear through. I had to kneel down and still crouch down low. I had got my helmet, ironically, and light, and was turning around to feed the rope back to B when I smacked my head on top of the passage. Human skull versus solid rock. Rock won. I told B what had happened, so he sent my first aid kit through. I was bleeding, but even worse, I didn't feel too good.
Well, you know, shit, dude. You just bashed your fucking skull in. What are you talking?
I patched myself up, then Joe didn't think I should continue. He looked like a little kid who was told that Christmas would be canceled. Although I didn't like the idea of him exploring the cave without me, for selfish reasons, of course, I wanted him to at least see part of the cave for making the trip out here. So
He's sending Joe off into the hell pit that they've been digging into, and he's like, all right, man, well, have fun out there. And
Ted's a horrible person.
Once again, Ted is just really digging himself a grave here. I don't think that, I don't know. The anxiety mounted for a waiting explorer as Joe exceeded a set time limit for return, so they're like, just be back here by this point, but he's late. He's gone way too long, but when Joe re-emerged, his condition was alarming. He was pale, breathless, and visibly shaken, with numerous small injuries suggesting a hasty retreat. He was uncommunicative and seemed eager to leave. Very suspicious. Maybe they should have told him, hey, Joe, by the way, buddy, seriously, there's a ghoul that lives down there in that pit. Just let you know.
Never mention to him a stray. Again, even if you think it's an animal, tell him you heard something yell.
If there was a raccoon in there, I'd be like, hey, there's a
raccoon,
family of raccoons that live in there. Be
They're
careful.
Probably upset. You should be aware of that. Yeah.
Joe's post-exploration behavior was odd. He hadn't seen or heard notable cave features, and his short, dismissive answers raised suspicions considering the cave's layout. The ride home was tense, with Joe mostly silent and unresponsive to inquiries about his experience. Attempts to contact him later remained unanswered, deepening the mystery of what occurred in the passage. And then Joe says this to close out the journal. He says,
once we got outside the cave, I figured we would be able to find out more from Joe. But when we got up to the final climb, he just unclipped from the rope and went straight to the truck. In the light of day, he looked even worse than in the cave. Joe said that he did not want to stay overnight because he felt terrible, and we believed him. So we headed home. We could get no more information from Joe. He just stared straight ahead. He was shaking like a leaf, and he said he was not cold.
Damn, dude, you cold? What the fuck's wrong with you? Stop shaking, Joe.
Bro, are you like chilly or something? What's wrong, dude?
Yo, dude, B, turn on the heater. This pussy's cold, dude.
When we tried to question him, his answers were short. I asked him if he saw any hieroglyphics. No. Did you hear us yelling? No. Did you see the round rock? No. Did you see the crystals? No. He said he just went a little ways in and started to feel sick. Something was fishy about his answers. He would have to have seen the crystals.
You're a fucking liar, Joe. I know that you saw the crystals.
If he got far enough into the cave that he couldn't hear us yelling, but why would he not elaborate?
To be fair, though, Joe just seems like also he's just like the vibe is off. Joe's like, dude, take me home. You guys suck.
It doesn't feel
You know what I mean?
like Joe saw or dealt with anything like conclusive, absolute, but it does feel like something happened to him in that cave that changed his outlook, you know?
Something definitely happened. He's not exploring any of the stuff, or he's just like, he's visibly shocked. They are painting a picture of a man who is just like, I do not want to even say any of the things that I saw because it's just like, then I'd have to almost relive it. But they decide to go back on April 28th this time, which is 2 weeks after their trip with Joe. But Joe's not there, obviously. It's just him and B again. Ted says this.
As we were rigging up the rope to descend into the cave, I felt something for the first time. I did not want to go in the cave. It was not a feeling of foreboding. I was not receiving some premonition. I just had no desire to enter the underground world of Mystery Cave. I didn't share this feeling with B at the time.
Such a good guy. Always not sharing anything with B.
Even though I had no desire to go into the cave, I knew we had to. We tested everything, and I gathered the gear, wanted to take it into the passage. Then it was time. We looked at each other, but said nothing. Then I turned to face the passage. As I twisted my body to begin entering the tomb, I desperately hoped it would be the last time I would contort my body to enter this claustrophobic nightmare. From behind me, I heard the scraping noise. It was loud. It was close. It was coming from the large room I had just left. I wheeled around to face whatever had made the noise. When I did, I lost my presence of mind and stood up at the same time. Crunch! My helmet crashed into the passage and ceiling. My light broke, and I was buried in heavy darkness.
So he goes in. He's saying, I really don't want to be here today, but god damn it, I have to. And he does it anyways. He hears a little something, and then this would be my actual hell. Being in a cave and then having a light break and just being in complete darkness, that has to be on the top for me. That's like the top of my list. A claustrophobic nightmare and you're in the darkness, dude? No way.
Gosh. The level of fear.
The way he describes the pain, too, is so surreal. Like, he's like...
Pain shot through my neck and down into my back. The helmet had protected my head, but my neck was nearly numb from the impact.
So he's just like a vegetable in this cave now. He's like, my head was fine, but I couldn't feel my spine. Fear enveloped me, and my knees began to weaken. I slowly and involuntarily slumped to my knees. I gently set the camera down as I began to see stars from the pain in my upper back. The scraping noise lasted only a second, and
and now the only sound I could hear was my own panic-inspired breathing. Not only could I feel the fear thick upon my chest, but the darkness seemed to hold me in place. I felt like I was vulnerable from every direction. I wanted to turn and look behind me, and to the side of me, and in front of me. Everywhere I saw was black. I used the glow stick to light the phone reel, and with a fumbling fingers I managed to plug my phone into the jack. I put the phone to my ear and heard nothing. The usual beeps to indicate connection with the other phone were not there.
Which B and Ted have been talking on a phone.
They used to use them in cave expeditions. It's effectively like a telegram line. So you run a physical cord from one end to the other, and you can talk to each other, but it has to have that actual cord. It's the equivalent of like 2 cups tied to a string.
That's what they should have had. So we and B decided to tie the cups together.
I do love this scene a lot because of how it's so visceral, but also subtle, the horror. So like, we've had the tease for a while of the noise of rock moving on rock, but then he's, as soon as he passes that main room, he hears it very close and very loud from that main room. And then in the same moment, his light's gone. Sure, you don't see a demon, you don't hear something speak to you, but you hear that noise and now you can't see anything. And you can't talk back to your friend. Horrifying.
It's absolutely horrifying. It's just painting such a picture, and like, it really is just such a descriptive retelling of just what it's like to be in hell, like to be in that nightmare. It's so effective even just through text. The phone is going silent, his legs are weak, he can't do anything, he's basically trying to move his way out now.
The short trip through the room took an eternity. As I passed the crude drawing, it seemed to glow, as if offering some sort of warning. I didn't know what the drawing represented, but everything about this cave seemed to instill fear. Toward the far end of the room, I could see the round rock dimly as the far reaches of my light. Something seemed different about it, but I couldn't tell what. When I got within a few feet, I could finally tell what had changed. It had moved. That was the sound I heard.
I remember when I read that for the first time, I was like, dude, fuck that.
Yeah.
The giant round rock, and it's like, oh, that was what was.
Yeah.
That was the sound, is that giant round rock moved. Okay,
I
that's
had
fun.
that suspicion when earlier he mentions he could hear rocks moving on rocks, and then that the rock was suspiciously round when he comes to it. And then to realize I was right about that is terrifying. Oh,
Yeah.
man. It's very cool horror because it's so unique. In this open cavern all the way underground, something is rolling around a boulder. And it's not something that's immediately trying to target and kill him, because it would have done that in the darkness, right? But for some reason, the boulder moved.
As he's noticing that the boulder moved, that's immediately when he's like, okay, I want to get out of here. But coincidentally, it's also whenever he's starting to freak out and he begins to quickly leave. And he says,
Finally, I reached the last stretch of the cave before the squeeze. As I was crawling toward the beginning of the tomb, I called to B. He answered back. I screamed at him to get everything ready to go. He asked if I was okay, since he hadn't heard from me on the phone. He got worried. I told him no, and to get everything ready to go. He asked why, and I screamed that there was something in the cave with us.
there you go, dude. First time, at least, you know what though? For Ted, that's a big step. It'd be really funny if he's like, nothing, it's fine. He's like, once again, he's like still holding information from me. No, dude, it's cool. Don't even worry about it,
Bro,
man.
did you leave Whip down here?
Yeah, dude, give me Whip. I want Whip. You bring it to me. He's obviously in a panic, but that's when he starts getting that nauseating stench, like the smell. He says,
Just as I started into the squeeze, I felt the wind in the passage increase, and with it, the most nauseating stench I had ever experienced. It smelled like damp, rotting, rancid, putrid death. Almost started to dry heave.
I love this expression too, because it's almost as if now this entity or monster that's down there with him, now you're starting to smell it. It's like becoming more and more realized, and it's almost like this creature that's been completely hidden is like stepping forward from the darkness, and you, in your mind's eye, you're kind of picturing what the hell is this thing that's moving these boulders around. It smells horrible. It's probably been down here eating like dead animals or like rats and stuff for God knows how long. So creepy.
There's that mention too, whenever he's walking by the boulder, after it gets rolled out of the way, that it led to a passage that he says is like a 45-degree angle going down like into the rock.
Yeah.
So it's like, what? Is that like a chute for something? Is that what this thing crawls up? So you can almost, even though it's never said, you can kind of track in your mind, like the boulder moved, he now smells something. You can envision something coming, getting closer, like it's moving up the cave to get to him. Everything in the story is so well laid out at this point that you can picture what a chase would look like.
Basically see yourself in this room, or a version of like what that slant would be like. It immediately started making me think that like the practicality now of that room to something that lives there.
Yeah.
That's what I started thinking of, is like, is the boulder like a door somehow? Is it used to like hide? Like, it's setting up all of these great narrative devices that I think are so fascinating. And it leads into probably one of the scariest parts of the story, which is their escape here, which is a little long, but I think it's worth reading a little bit. It's a great one, which is them retrieving the rope. And he says,
I did not see or hear B until I reached the small area at the bottom of the drop. He was on the rope and climbing out as fast as he could.
This is them leaving, by the way. They got out of the hole and they're running.
I could hear him moving quickly and breathing heavily. I called out to him, and his startled reaction told me he was nearly as tense as I was. He told me to get on the rope and start climbing. We both knew what would be dangerous and not something we would normally do, but this was different. From above, I heard B warn me,
Rock!
and I ducked under the ledge as several small rocks landed on the floor near my feet. I quickly went back to pulling the rope in. I had about half of it in, about 50 feet, when the rope hit a snag.
Ugh.
It was solid. There was no way I was going to crawl back to release it, so I decided to just forget the rope and get my harness on and get out of the cave. I quickly threw the harness around me and started to buckle it. Before I could secure it, I heard a strange noise at my feet. My pulse began to quicken. I looked down at the rope, only to discover my horror that the rope was disappearing down the darkness. Something was pulling the rope back into the cave.
I love that.
Oh, it's
I
so
love
good.
that. It's so good. I love that part.
Imagine the horror of you're wheeling it in and then something starts to tug back on the other end.
Oh my god, dude. We still have no idea what is down there, but it's just the tension and the anticipation.
There is so much
it's
going
amazing.
on with nothing going on.
I cut up to B on the ledge below where our relay point was fixed. I told him to keep going. It would only take him a few minutes, but every second would be a torture because I had to wait for him to get up. I watched the rope that we had just climbed up. I expected to see some creature from deep within the earth climb up and make me its lunch. The rope moved around a bit in rhythm with B's climbing, but did not appear to have any tension to it. As I stood there waiting for B, I kept watching the rope for signs of anything bizarre. I didn't know if my heart could take any more stress. I could not have been more wired. I tried to relax a bit to make sure I was thinking rationally, but my poor brain had reached sensory overload. As B reached the top of the last climb, I got ready to clip on my ascender and get my sorry butt out of there. It was then that I noticed that the rope began to tighten from below. I could feel the tension on the rope, but it was a steady tension. Not like someone was climbing up. Either way, I wanted out of there as fast as possible. I clipped on and scrambled up the rope. I had noticed, but B had kept on moving towards the entrance. I got up the last few feet in a hurry and just unclipped and kept on moving, leaving the rope behind.
They made it out of the cave, luckily, and I mean, now they definitely know something's down there. At least Ted does. I think B just believes them, and they're just like completely, I mean, they're just completely drained now. They're just like, oh my god, screw this. Like, they don't really talk very much after they get out. They just are kind of in their own heads. 4 days later, still haunted by the experience, Ted kind of explains that he struggled to write due to how crazy and overwhelming his emotions and memories were of the event. His vivid recollections of pain, stench, and terror still haunt him, and his difficulty concentrating even after several days. Like, he talks about, like, he can't watch TV, he's been asked to like go home from work early. He's just kind of like completely emotionally and mentally gone, still trying to process what's going to happen.
He gets medicated during that time. He starts to see the visions and stuff like that. Like, dude is in a bad place.
Like, when he goes to a doctor, he doesn't even explain what's going on. He's just like, oh, I'm messed up.
Yeah.
Just to get a prescription. He says something along the lines of like he doesn't want to just like pop pills and be addicted to it his whole life, but it's like gotten to a place where he's like, I just simply can't take it anymore. And that leads us to May 19th, 2001, which is his last entry.
It has been 3 weeks since our last visit to the cave. I want to update everyone as to my condition, my plans for the cave, and the events of the past few weeks. It took several days to get the last journal entry written down. I was so shook up from the experience that I could do little else but sit around and ponder what happened. When we left the cave, I was nearly in the state of shock. I could not think clearly, and I was having a difficult time trying to understand what happened. I didn't eat much, nor did I get any sleep. I had an overwhelming feeling of anxiety sink into my soul. I was depressed and confused and had no one I wanted to turn to for comfort.
Which, if this is a joke to your family, awesome. I mean, imagine the family reading this part. Like,
I have no one. I'm alone. There's no one here.
There's no one here. I feel terrible.
I continued in a miserable state, eating and sleeping whenever I could manage, until a week after the trip. Then things started to get strange. At first, I was hearing sounds in the house that had no explanations. Footsteps, shuffling noises, creaking doors, you know, the typical horror movie fare. Only the sounds were not distinct. It was as though I wasn't sure I heard what I thought I heard. I'd be eating or getting out of the shower and stop, thinking I heard something, but the sound would not repeat itself. In fact, if it weren't for the fact it had happened frequently, I couldn't be sure that the noises were there in the first place. Either way, I was scared. It was as though I had been caught on a spider web for the last week. Feeling of anxiety, foreboding, tension filled my life. Then came the hallucinations.
He goes into depth about him having hallucinations of seeing things out of the corner of his eye, things in his house going on. He can't have any sleep. He's been shutting his blinds so he can like realistically stop thinking that things are like looking in his window watching him. him. Just horrible stuff. Until he has this like overwhelming feeling to go to the overlook to see the city lights.
This is a fascinating part of the story, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. And he says,
I wanted to drive to the overlook point to see the city lights. I didn't know why I needed to go there, but I knew I had to go. The closer I got, the more urgent the feeling. When I arrived at the point, I saw something that first startled me. But then it caused me to be more relaxed than I had been in a long time. Joe was there. He was out of his car, standing looking at the lights. He could tell from the look on my face that we shared some of the terrible experiences. Our conversation was unbelievably brief. You been back? He began, even though he knew the answer. Yes, we need to return. Tomorrow good? I asked. Yeah, noon. He got in his car and I got in mine. I hadn't even talked to him about his experience. Obviously, he didn't want to know mine.
I love that.
It's so
I love
good.
that little excerpt.
It's so good.
Just that the very, very quick back and forth is just so, I don't know why, but I always picture like an X-Files episode or something, like the overlook of the city, the city lights there, and then just this brief encounter, and then both these guys just get in their cars and go away. But what's weird about it is that he's like relieved to see Joe instead of being creeped out. I was always fascinated by that part. Whatever haze he's been under, it was like relieved, because almost as if whatever was like puppeteering this plan was like letting go for a second. You're where you need to be, kind of thing.
Yeah, and both of them felt the need to go to this one point at the same time, and there's not even a discussion. Ted treats the story when he's writing it as if like, of course I would want to go back to the cave. Why wouldn't I? When to the reader, that's the farthest thing he could possibly want to do. It's such an interesting little moment between the two.
In my opinion, it's one of the most impactful parts of the story.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like, because anybody else, if they'd be that, they'd be like, "What the fuck, Joe? You're here?" And like, you would think that they would explode into a conversation, but no, they're just like, "We should go back.
We need to go back. We have to
Noon?
go back." Yeah.
Okay. And which leads Ted to go meet with B after his interaction with Joe, and he says,
I drove her to B's house. When he answered the door, I thought that B actually looked like he was doing fine, somewhat happy. One look at me, his disposition changed. B looked dead serious. He just nodded his head.
Basically, they knew that they were going to go back to the cave. Part of this I liked because Ted ends it by saying like, "Oh, I just noticed that every light was on in his house," which is so simple, but that made it so creepy to me. Of just like, I noticed that every single light was on in his house. It's just a quick little blurb.
B knew that something went down in the cave. Like, he was running, he smelled it, and at the very end, there's that mention that B cut the rope whenever the thing was like pulling on it, right? B knows something went down, but because he didn't go in that room, up until that point, you kind of have the idea, well, maybe he's free from whatever's plaguing Ted. Maybe B's doing more okay. And we've seen Ted's side. He's hallucinating. He leaves all the lights in his house on at night, and you're like, okay, maybe B's not going through it. But when he visits B, B's like, oh yeah, please, you can stay at my house, sure, and all the lights are on. And you're immediately told, oh no, B's got it too.
That's what I like you're saying, is like the writer tried to put your guard down by having B be like, oh, well, he didn't see it, so he's fine.
Yeah.
But no, actually, he's just as tormented as them. And if anything, he's putting on a front to maybe like try to trick it, almost like you're not trying to give in to the things you're seeing. So it's very creepy. And I mean, the story begins to wrap up by him talking about their preparations to return. He talks about how they're going to bring more first aid kits. They're going to bring lights. He's going to bring a video cameras. He's going to bring a pad and paper to write whatever he has to do. But they are determined, like they're almost in a haze, like being like, we're going to go there. And the conclusion of this story is so like hauntingly awesome. It's always stuck with me. And the fact that it's supposed to be like a blog post makes it so much better. And this is part of the ending here. He says,
many of you don't agree with my decision to pursue this cave.
I'm afraid I don't have a choice. If I am ever to experience restful slumber, I must return. If I am ever to walk the halls of my own home in peace, I must return. If I'm ever to exit the overworld and enter the subterranean world of a cave, I must now return. I no longer feel that I have a choice. I must return. For my family and friends who are reading this, I say, be at peace. I will conquer this cave. Then I will return and update this website immediately. I will include any photos we take in the cave today, and if you stop by my house, I will show you the video I have. I expect to be home later tonight or tomorrow at the latest. And that's the last post. It's like, it's such a good, like, when I remember the first time I ended this, you're like, oh God. And it does a couple great things. One, it makes your mind race, obviously, about like what was down there, obviously. But then it makes you think, I immediately thought of his family finding this. Like, I thought of like the aftermath of that. I thought about like people back then reading this, because God forbid you read this the day it got posted and then you check tomorrow and you're like, wait, what the fuck? and you're like updating it. Oh my God, you know, like what happened?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
It's so hauntingly just like beautiful in that way. Just that nice poetic ending. Ugh, man, it lingers with you. It's just so Lovecraftian. I mean, like it's just that perfect Lovecraftian end to where it's just so bleak. It's bleak without even being bleak, because Lovecraft would probably say something like, the horrors, like we're all dead, like blah 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 blah. But really, it's just like, you know, I'll see you tomorrow, and that tomorrow never comes. And that's like the best part, realizing that there's no other post, like you just kind of like scrolling down more, being like, wait, what the fuck? That's it? What happened? You know, it's so good.
I remember first time like thinking like, okay, what's next? And then it just stops there and you're like, oh, that's what was next. That's what happened to him. I love how much we are given and how much is left up to imagination. We're given things like the boulder, things like the hieroglyph, the smell, something pulling on the rope, and this kind of supernatural desire to return. Something led him to go to that mountaintop and meet Joe. Something makes him feel like he has to go back to that cave. Something beyond just the need for exploration. Something's giving him these dreams, these visions. We're given hints as to what it might be, but there's just the right level of interpretation left up to the audience.
Oh, dude. Well, that's the best thing about this, is that the ambiguity never feels like ambiguity, because the author, whoever wrote this, is so in depth with everything else. The amount of detail he gives the cave, that you get in just the process of cave diving, all of these things are so in depth text-wise. I mean, this isn't like a short read. Like it takes some time, a couple hours or something like that. The areas in which it doesn't explore, it's because it cannot. And that's what makes it so good. It doesn't feel cheap. It doesn't feel like ambiguous horror that's just like, well, that's up to your interpretation. It's giving you everything that you need to know while still not showing all of its hand. I love that. The juxtaposition between being so super detailed and then wishing there was more. That's what I thought was interesting on this reread, was like, God, how I wish that like we could have known what the monster was, you know, just one more day of another log, like, but it's so interesting because he gives you so much. It's just so much visual candy that you're given to just like absorb and really feel like you're in the space, but yet it's something that dies with Ted.
Yeah.
Is what's so great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Creepypastas vary a ton in quality of like, you know, great or bad.
Definitely.
And I love that they kind of kicked off in a sense, or at least in the cultural mindset, with such a banger.
Yeah, I think it set the bar high, and I think that there's so many good creepypastas out there too. And that's the interesting thing, is that they can be so simple or so complex, but this just rides that perfect wave. Like I love a lot of creepypastas, but this one always has stuck with me for forever. I was younger when I first read this on a website. I don't think it was Angel Fire, but it was definitely a different like kind of website. It scared the shit out of me, and of course now it's blown up. There's tons of people who have done rereads of it on YouTube, but it just feels like that perfect mix. It's just so fun. And I think honestly, as like something where if you're in the Halloween mood and maybe you're like, I feel like I have no horror movies, I feel like I'm craving to be put into the season that is Halloween, I think that this is awesome. I think it's great to read before bed. It's actually really fun too to read across multiple days. Like if you stop per journal entry, it's really fun, especially if you haven't read it before, because then it almost feels like you're updating yourself on the blogs as they go on, and you can like really let it sink in. That's a lot of fun. Hard to do because, you know, I get glued in. I know like whenever you were reading it too, you were like, I just need a couple more minutes. I'm really hooked.
Yeah. Because I had heard it a while back. I think I'd listened to it before, but reading it, there was all this stuff I didn't remember. Details about like the boulder and the hieroglyph. And I was like, wait, let me cook. Let me get through this.
It's so fun because there's so many times where I'm reading it and then you stop and you're just like, what is that? Like I found myself pondering more about being like, oh, very happy with what was being revealed to me. All the little context clues, all the little breadcrumbs that they leave are just awesome. So
it's so good. It's so many layers. Just the hieroglyph has so much to it.
The real thing is that when are we going to get the sequel with Whip going in there and following him?
That's why everything went wrong. They didn't bring Whip with them. Whip would have kept him safe.
You know what would be fucking insane is if somebody did like a found footage horror film and it's like they tape a fucking camera to Whip's back the tunnel, and it's all the perspective of just a dog walking through. So then that also seizes the thing of like, why are you still recording? It's like, dude, it's a dog with a camera on its back. It can't stop recording.
The dog doesn't choose. They did that that with VHS.
VHS
2.
the second one.
Yeah. The alien one. Yeah.
So good. And it's perfect too, because it's like, well, yeah, of course. And the pacing of that is great. Because he's just running around and he's scared.
Yeah,
that's a good
the
one.
dog's gonna do what the dog does. But yeah, I really love Ted the Caver. What do you think the creature is at the end? Because they mention the hodag.
What, the hog dog?
The
hodag.
The hog dog. No, that's Whip. You're thinking of Whip.
Yeah, the hodag. I don't know. I mean, the hodag, which people don't know, it's like a bullish, like little horned creature that just kind of like lurks around caves. I don't know. I mean, like in my mind, every time I read this, my mind always goes to a place of like the descent of like some kind of weird culture or thing that still lives down there and is feeding on things. But when I read this time, it did feel more paranormal. It felt like almost like something that was sealed up that they released, which is also great. You know, like a Sphinx's curse, unveiling a tomb and releasing evil into the world. Like a different kind of like, North American feel to that.
We mentioned Borderlands earlier, and I really do think of it as that creature. I think there's this massive thing underground that was maybe worshipped at one point. A lot of these caves, these tunnels are maybe like ways people used to get to it or creatures used to get to it. Maybe it has smaller creatures that go out and feed it. But when he talks about the smell overwhelming the cave, I imagine that that's like its stomach opening. Yeah, like bile. Yeah. Maybe he has creatures that drag people down into it, and that's what grabbed the rope. But when they get out and he's thinking about, I have to go back, like we brought up Lovecraft, I think of it as some like creature within the mountains, some unspeakable horror down there that has dragged humans into it for centuries. I kind of think of it as something like that. But again, that's what I love about the story so much. There's nothing outside of what is scary to me to support that. So it is the scariest parts of my brain that put the pieces together. And I think that's fascinating.
Also, it is funny to think that it's a stomach, because it's like the day they smell something, it's just like the fucking pagan god or whatever had like bad like heartburn or something.
It had
like a bunch of, like, stomach bile. He really doesn't go that far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like 40 feet.
And then it's just like, oh shit, I heard something, and he leaves. So it's like you never really actually go that far until probably the time that they went in the last time, and they probably went as far as they ever did and never made it out. So it's such a captivating story. But appreciate you stopping by, Wendigo. And if you haven't checked out Wendigo's channel, you gotta check it out if you love this kind of stuff, because he does it much more in depth, much more entertaining than I do. So please go check out his channel, give him some love. I appreciate you stopping by, buddy.
Absolutely. And you sell yourself short. It's always a pleasure to come on. I enjoyed last year's video so much, I wouldn't miss it for the world. So thank you very much, man, for having me back on. I can tell you that Papa Meat is one of the kindest people I've spoken to, both on and off the air. He's a great creator, and you all should definitely continue to show him some support.
There's definitely going to be text that says this is a paid endorsement.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, did I do it right? Is my check going to be in the mail? Okay, cool.
Yeah, we'll check the script later. We'll see.
Yeah. The bullet points are kind of smeared on my hand right now, but I think I got the main ones. Yeah.
All right, man. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Peace.